I am standing before you today with a sad update regarding the Hannah Choi homicide investigation that, as you know and we know, we have been working nonstop since March 6th, 22 days ago. So on March 24th, just this past Thursday, a community member in the Charles County, Maryland area located a deceased individual in Piscataway Park. After a thorough forensic examination, I am confirming the remains found are that of Hannah Choi. We are thankful for her discovery, which brings a sense of closure in this case. But Hannah has not been the only person we've been searching for the past 3+ weeks. We are looking for Hannah's killer, Joel Merino, 27. Joel is Fairfax County's most wanted, and he is on the run. We will not stop until we find Merino. Joel, if you're listening to me, turn yourself in. Surrender on your terms, at a time and place of your choosing, or be arrested on ours. You can tell your story, and you enjoy a presumption of innocence. And to our community, we need your help finding Hannah's killer. I am announcing a new, incredible reward leading to the whereabouts and arrest of Merino. Thanks to the generous donations of Hannah's family, friends and neighbors, our community, I am announcing a $40,000 reward. Anyone with any information that is shared with law enforcement about the whereabouts of Merino, where he may be living, staying, or likely hiding from law enforcement that leads to his capture, is eligible to receive this reward.
Hannah Choi was first reported missing on March 6th when her friends noticed that things were off. She had missed some appointments. Ms. Choi was last seen the day before at her home in the 5300 block of Jesmond Street in the Alexandria section of Fairfax County. Our officers searched the house, which appeared to be in order with the exception of some bedding that was missing from one of the bedrooms. Detectives soon learned that Ms. Choi spent the evening of March 5th with her live-in ex-boyfriend, Joel Merino. It was during that same evening we believe something happened between Ms. Choi and Merino, and Ms. Choi sustained a significant injury. We believe the 27-year-old Merino then removed Ms. Choi from her home and transported her body to Charles County, Maryland. The vehicle Merino was driving that night, Ms. Choi went missing, was found on March 7th in Washington, D.C. Detectives discovered evidence within that vehicle to suggest Ms. Choi was harmed prior to her disappearance. Warrants for second-degree murder and disposal of a body were obtained for Merino. That was based on additional interviews and the investigation as a whole. Our fugitive track and apprehension unit assumed the investigation and learned that Merino was supposed to fly out of Reagan National Airport on March 8th. He never showed up to that flight. We later learned that he fled the state, and at that point we contacted the United States Marshal Service. Our initial investigation led us to Piscataway Park in Maryland. As the major said, we searched more than 800 acres of the park for Ms. Choi on March 11th and 14th. We now know that Hannah Choi's body was found by a passerby on March 24th. The Fairfax County Search and Rescue was slated to expand its search that same day to the area where Ms. Choi was found. The medical examiner's office and the Charles County Sheriff's Office were able to make a positive identification this past weekend. The result of the autopsy is pending further examination. We still have questions about the night of Hannah's murder and disappearance. We believe Merino has answers. We also believe Merino needs to answer for his heinous crime.
Okay, let's bring in tonight's guests. Joining me tonight in Palm Springs, California, retired FBI special agent and producer of Indivisible Healing Hate, which is streaming on Paramount Plus. Bobby Chacon is with us. In Orlando, Florida tonight, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King. And joining us by phone in Alexandria, Virginia, special guest is Hannah's sister, Mina, is with us. Mina, let me begin with you. You have been so amazing throughout all of this, so strong for your sister Hannah and so strong for your family, and we appreciate you coming on tonight. How is the family doing now with all these latest developments?
Well, first of all, again, thank you all for following up and, keeping my sister's case at the forefront. I think like any other family out there with a missing loved one, we're sort of holding on to, that 1% of hope that perhaps, the worst would not be confirmed. But obviously, that's not the case. I think the most heart-wrenching part of it for us is that she was just left out there for so long, and that we couldn't do anything for her. But just, again, like the Major said, our work isn't finished. Her suspected killer is still out there, and we really need to bring her justice, really, is how we're feeling right now.
Understandable. Does he have family in the area? Have they spoken out at all, Mina? Have they contacted your family?
We have not been contacted by any family members. I'm not quite sure sort of what we are sort of allowed to disclose or not.
Mina, let me stop you right there, Mina. We don't want to do anything on this program that, number one, that makes you feel uncomfortable revealing, and number two, that would interfere with the search for this suspected killer. So very understandable. If there's any questions that I ask that get into that territory, just pass. Don't be afraid to pass, please.
Okay.
Let me go to Bobby Chacon. Bobby, the first thing that strikes me here is that investigators suspected that she had been killed. That tells me there's a lot of evidence in that car.
Well, yeah, Vinny, you're right on. And not only suspected, but they charged him before the body was found. So I think that you're right. I think that there's a very substantial amount of evidence that they have, because prosecutors don't lodge these kind of serious charges unless they have enough evidence that they think at that point they can prevail at trial. So I think that even before her body was found, I think that they were confident that they had enough evidence that they could convict this individual, and therefore they lodged those charges, I think, on the 15th of March. So I think there is evidence. I'm glad that we're not hearing a lot about it. But I think that, once he's taken into custody, and Mina, I'm confident that you and your family will receive the justice that you're due. I think he will be caught and hopefully convicted, and I think he will be caught quickly because of programs like this that get his face out there and people see his face and know what he looks like. He's, as it says there, he's 5'7", 230 pounds. People are going to know who this guy is. He's going to be acting odd. He's going to be hiding, but he will be found and he will be brought to justice. I'm confident of that. But you're right, Vinny. I think there's a lot of evidence that they have, because in a very short period of time, even though they said the house was searched and nothing was amiss other than some bedding, when they found the car and they said clearly she was deceased before she was reported disappeared, I think that there's enough evidence that they feel confident that they're going to get a conviction at trial, even before the forensics exam.
Mike King, let's talk about the autopsy. How significant will that be in trying to get more answers here and gather more evidence for what is going to be a prosecution for murder?
That's going to be a huge piece of this puzzle. and it's going to give us a real indication of what the motivation was for this homicide, how it was conducted. It's going to give us a better idea of what that physical evidence that was recovered at the scene, which just suggests that it was a traumatic injury, and we're just so sorry to have to talk about this with family and others who hear about this, but this is ugly business when it comes to homicide. That autopsy is also going to give us a better indication of the intent, whether this was something that was just a spur of the moment reactionary kind of a thing, or whether this was something that was thought out. And I think, Vinny, it also causes us to start thinking about these separate crime scenes that are involved in this case, because clearly there is a crime scene where this happened in the apartment or in the car, and it could have happened in both places as a continuation because of evidence that we're hearing about that's recovered in the car. But then there's this disposal site across from Mount Vernon, and the significance of that could really play into this investigation to better understand what was going on and what the mindset was at the point of this young woman being deposited there in that park.
I want to talk more about Joel Merino, and I'm not talking to glorify him. I'm talking about him because he needs to be caught and brought to justice here. Hannah spent the evening of March 5th with him. Keep an eye on his face, folks. Detectives believe that she sustained that injury. They believe Merino transported Hannah from Fairfax, Virginia to Charles County, Maryland. Merino's vehicle was found in D.C. on March 7th, and he had a flight on March 8th, but he never took that flight. But his vehicle was found on the 7th. Mina Choi is with us, Hannah's sister. Mina, have you heard anything about any tips or searches about places where he may be, just to give our viewers some level of, hey, he could be in, I know he's from Maryland, but maybe he could be in my town, in my city?
Not too much, except what sort of the major said at the conference yesterday. You know, the last sighting was in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia. His flight was out to, Southern California. That was a pre-planned flight. That wasn't a, that he was actually supposed to leave. I think that's sort of the worst part of it all, is that he was supposed to pick up and leave town a couple days later. But sort of beyond those locations, I think the major emphasized, he really could be anywhere. So we really need everyone to sort of keep their eyes out and keep his face in their memories.
Absolutely. Bobby Chacon, how easy or difficult is it to live under the radar? Like he's been living for a short time now. They may have some leads that they're not talking about, but how difficult or easy is it?
It depends on the individual. It depends on, when I searched for Eric Robert Rudolph 20 years ago in the woods of North Carolina, he was prepared to go on the run. He had prepped himself. He had hidden supplies in the woods. If this was, a crime that was not planned, and it doesn't seem like it was planned, at least long term, because he had that flight to Southern California booked that was not part of this incident. He wasn't trying to use that flight to get away. He never took the flight. So I think that because this wasn't a long-term plan, he did not have the wherewithal to do advanced staging of assets and things like that. So not only, I think, is it going to be difficult for him in this case, but also when you heard, I believe it was the prosecutor say that the U.S. Marshals had been brought in to the case. There's nobody better in the world than the U.S. Marshals at tracking people like this and finding them and bringing them to justice. The U.S. Marshals will track this guy down. He may get caught by state or local authorities as well. But now that I realize the Marshals are on the case, I have full confidence that he's on the run, but he will be found and he will be brought to justice.
$40,000. $40,000 for if you have a tip, if you have information, make the call, folks. Make it immediately. Maybe I don't think you should approach him. Dangerous guy, but snap a picture. Let authorities know immediately what you see. Mina, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our deepest condolences to your entire family. And as always, we'll stay on the story until he is arrested, and then Court TV will stay on the story as the prosecution begins. Thank you so much, Mina. Bobby Chacon, Mike King staying with us when we come back.